Yo! What's going on, everybody? My headset right here, coming right off.
Got to get the technical
That's
difficulties out the way. And
that's the way to start the show. How's everyone doing? Anthony Rivera, Subway to Shea podcast, Hector Beauchamp, Yankees Morning Brew Sports Network collaboration today. We did one at the beginning of the spring, and we are back because guess what? Opening day is a few days away, right around the corner. Hector, man, it's baseball time.
it's finally the right time of the season, right? Not only is it baseball time, spring is in the air. New York City is pretty cold right now. So whenever the teams start making their way up north, that means that good weather is in the forecast when it comes to the tri-state area. But no, Ann, appreciate you having me on. Regardless of Yankees, Mets, I just love having conversations with you, my guy. And I think we vibe very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to be talking all top headlines for the Mets and Yankees. Like I said, we're a few days away from opening day, although the Mets opening day might get rained out. So we might not start until Friday with the way the weather's looking at this moment. I got to say right off the bat, great meeting you at New York One this past weekend. Great experience with Rocco Vertuccio. That was a fun. How did you enjoy that? That had a lot of fun, man.
It was awesome. Shout out to Rocco, right? Because I was telling you when we was in the green room, when Rocco reached out to me, I thought it was fake. I thought it was like a burner account. But then once I Googled Rocco to make sure and verify that he was real, I was able to take a deep breath and be like, okay, Rocco's not trying to steal my kidney. Like you said, it was good meeting you in person, IRL. I look forward to many collaborations during not only this baseball season, but just in the future with us, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could even, let's talk about that because soon the launch of Mets Evening Brews coming out. I'll be in there with you co-hosting alongside Eddie Presti and everyone's favorite Theo Al Cintrone from WFAN. And me and Al go way back from the beginning of when I first started my podcast. So it's going to be a lot of fun doing that. We'll let you know later on when that will, drop and the particulars when that all gets settled. But that's going to be fun. Well, we can say it's every Thursday.
Yeah. Well, that's what we could say is every Thursday. We're just trying to iron out the schedule, make sure the schedule is good for you, for Theo, Al, and for Eddie as well. But no, look forward to the Mets Evening Brew coming over to the Morning Brew Sports channel. We started our channel with the Yankees Morning Brew as like the first show, and then we paired off to do the Knicks Morning Brew, then the Rangers, then the Jets, and it's been a welcoming environment when it comes to the fan base. Positive feedback from the fans.
Well, speaking about the fans, we have 30 people right now in this room at the start. And light up the chat. We'll be taking questions, comments, whatever you got. We got Lane Kerner in here.
Oh,
we
yeah.
got Jeff Cohen in here. Jeff Cohen says, probably not the right time to bring it up, but teams must stop plunking the Mets players. Well, we could get into that. Mendoza needs to put a stop to that and retaliate. We'll probably get into some of that behavior that has been going on for, say, years now. But let's start right off the bat here. And, this Mets season was a whole lot different about 72 hours ago. And in the 11th hour of the offseason, as people have put it, the Mets signed JD Martinez, and to a deal 1 year, $12 million, $4.5 million he'll be paid this year. And then everyone's favorite word, deferments, come in to play. And $1.5 million from 2034 to 2038. So he's getting that Bobby Bonilla treatment, as we all like to quote every so
Shout
often.
out to go Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah, he started it all, and now we're seeing a lot of contracts like that. The Washington Nationals are still paying for Max Scherzer. I mean, like every team I feel like has one or two of these types of players. What did you think of the Mets going out and getting J.D. Martinez? Because everyone thought it was going to be Mark Vientos, but if you read between the lines, if you paid attention to what Steve Cohen has said, to what David Stearns has said, It was the fact that, yes, they were going to give the kids a chance, but if the opportunity came, the price was right, they would strike and get a free agent. And that's what they did here. And I thought, as long as these top free agents are still out here, the Boers five, if you want to call them, the better chance the Mets had at signing one of them, because one of these deals were going to fall to them. And it ended up being JD Martinez.
Yeah. When it comes to the signing of JD Martinez, right? From the outside looking in as a Yankee fan, looking from across the borough at the Mets, it was a signing that you guys needed to make. When it comes to Pete Alonso, let's be honest, this is his last year on his contract. You guys got to do everything you can to try to convince Pete Alonso to stay with the Mets. It's not about just a blank check. You guys have to convince him and show him as an organization. Yeah, we said we was going to rebuild and get some young kids, but at the same time, we're going to try to be competitive. And I think signing JD Martinez is a signal to the fan base and to Pete Alonso that this team will be competitive. And let's be honest, since Pete Alonso has been with the New York Mets, he's never had protection. This is the most
No.
protection that Pete Alonso is ever going to have in the Mets lineup, right? Granted, if JD Martinez is young, put age to the side. He's a professional hitter, MVP candidate back in his prime. Even a 70 or 60% version of what JD Martinez was last year is still better protection than Pete Alonso ever had in this lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. And Pete Alonso is actually a big proponent of bringing JD here. JD talked about it during his press conference that, obviously Steve Cohen had this, like, I guess, text with the I guess it's the big three, Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, about bringing JD Martinez here. And obviously they were all for it. Lengthens that lineup as needed. He won't start off with the club. He's going to start off in the minors for the first 2 weeks of the season. I think he's coming up around the time they head out to Cincinnati. But in that time, probably it would be a DJ Stewart. Although, there he hasn't been confirmed to be on the roster just yet. Stern says he's even looking still that maybe someone gets released, or there's always some move to be made right before the season begins. I would assume that it's DJ Stewart, considering that there's not too many lefties. Will Salmon of The Athletic mentioned that there's not too many lefties the first couple weeks that the Mets have to face. So DJ Stewart will be perfect to slot in at that point. As we move now to the Yankees' big storyline, and we talked at the beginning of spring training, everything was nice, right? Everything, the players were all healthy, everything was all good. But then the injury to Garrett Cole, that's been the big, I think, to me, outside of bringing in Soto, that's the biggest storyline for the Yankees moving forward. And I know that he got the result that the fans wanted, in that he'll have to only sit out 2 to 3 months. But as a Met fan, dealing with Jacob deGrom, dealing with Max Scherzer, dealing with pitchers of the past, Zach Wheeler in the past, Harvey, and all those guys, I'm going to tell you something, that I am deeply concerned with this injury. And I don't know if I don't want to say Tommy John surgery right now, but I am concerned in the future that this could lead to something like that. And I wouldn't want to bring him back to lose him and then lose him for even longer. That's like one of my big concerns.
When it comes to Garrett Cole, right, there's no pitcher out there that can replace Garrett Cole. The only way you're replacing Garrett Cole is if you could get a piece of his hair and make a clone copy of Garrett Cole. That's the only way you're replacing Garrett Cole. When it comes to the injury, like you said, we did get a bright side or a good note when it comes to the 2 to 3 week timeline. I mean, 2 to 3 month timeline that the doctors laid out. He did go out to California to get a second opinion. We had on our show on the Yanks Morning Brew, Dr. Jesse Morse. He's a
Yep.
specialist when it comes to sports medicine. He deals with the NFL, NBA, and MLB, and he broke down different timelines from a best case scenario, a middle case scenario, and a worst case scenario when it comes to Garrett Cole. And he said around 2 to 3 months is like the perfect timeline when you look at that type of injury. 2 months to just get over the injury, and then an extra month just to build back up his pitch count and innings just to get himself ready for the regular season. So I'm with you. If Garrett Cole comes back and he rushes it and he gets hurt and he further injures himself and he has to get Tommy John surgery, that's the worst case scenario. You never want to see that happen. So if I'm the Yankees, I'm going to try to do everything I can to try to calm the waters or just hold the fort down until Garrett Cole is ready to go. And when you look at this lineup, I think our lineup is deep enough that we could be the Yankees of the mid 2000s, that we had no starting rotation. We hardly had an ace. Our ace was Randy Johnson and Mike Mussina. Both of them was pushing 40, right? So we're going to have to go back to those Yankees of the mid 2000s and lean more about scoring instead of pitching, just until Cole gets back.
Well, let's look at the rotations for both teams here. We'll start off with the Yankees since we're talking about them. And Nestor Cortez, he'll be out there opening day. You got Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, Clark Schmidt, and Luis Gil, who just won the spot the other day. He'll be there, as we mentioned, Garrett Cole to start the season on IL with the nerve inflammation in his elbow. How are you feeling right now about the way this rotation is set up?
There's a lot of question marks in that starting rotation. The one pitcher that's in that rotation, former Met Marcus Stroman, you and we talked about him when the Yankees first signed him and when the news came out. But this is a guy that a lot of at least 70 to 80% of Yankee fans did not want Marcus Stroman. And look at it. That's the guy that's going to be making opening day start at Yankee Stadium. Probably going to be our most important pitcher in that rotation until Garrett Cole comes back. A lot of question marks, like I said. What is the health of Nestor Cortez? What is the health of Carlos Rodon? Is Clark Schmidt going to able to give you 150 innings for the first time in his career? I think the secret weapon in that starting rotation and the graphic that you brought up is Luis Gil. I always was a big fan of Luis Gil when he first came up a couple of years ago. He had Tommy John surgery. His one issue that he had when he first came up was a control issue. So far in spring training, look at the numbers. It seems like he doesn't have any control issues no more. Granted, it is spring training, so we got to see if those numbers can translate. But if Luis Gil can show you what he showed you in spring training, he could be a surprise breakout of that starting rotation.
You know, I saw Clark Schmidt today. He pitched very well against the Mets earlier on today with, I think it was like 5 or 6 shutout innings.
Yeah, he only had one hiccup so far this season, and unfortunately, it was a game that I was at George M. Steinbrenner Field against the Braves. That was his only hiccup, but this spring training, remove that start. He's been phenomenal so far in spring.
So is it safe to say that the biggest concern out of the rotation would be Carlos Rodon?
It's the biggest concern. One, Carlos Rodon, every start is going to get amplified in the absence of Garrett Cole, right? With no Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon is going to be so important to the starting rotation. And it may be unwarranted pressure that he's going to have on himself, but it's pressure nonetheless. And in New York City, when you get a big contract, you are playing and living under a microscope. It ain't no other bigger microscope than the New York Yankees on 161 River Ave.
Yeah, that and his last start got a little lit up there, so a little concerning. Marcus Stroman, as you mentioned, we've both have seen him on each side of the plane. If he can be with his talent, that stabilizer in the rotation to give you the innings that is needed and give you quality starts, because in 2021, that's what he was for the Mets.
Yeah.
Take away the record, he pitched the most innings and he pitched the most quality starts. And if he can provide that in the middle of the rotation for the Yankees, that's going to be a huge weight lifted off of that rotation's back.
But there's a, and I see your point. You made valid points, but the Yankees aren't the only team in the American League that's dealing with starting pitching issues, right? The Texas Rangers, who won the World Series last year, they don't even know who's going to be opening day starter for them because they have a lot of injuries to their starting rotation. So when you look at the starting rotation argument, it's a valid critique and it's a valid way to lead a conversation. But in the American League, the top starting rotation is the Seattle Mariners. There's no other starting rotation that's coming close to the Seattle Mariners. The issue with the Mariners, do they have enough offense to score some runs for that rotation? And I'm not scared of the Seattle Mariners offense. So when you look at the Yankees offense and when you look at the rest of the offense in the American League, name me another team that has a better 1 through 9 lineup in the American League, right? When you look at the Baltimore Orioles, no shade to the Baltimore Orioles, but Adley Rutschman is their franchise corner piece for the next 10 years, right? He's older than Juan Soto. I just want to throw that out there. Adley Rushman is older than Juan Soto. Just let that marinate in your head.
Is, I was looking back at the Seattle's rotation. I'm like 1 through 5. That's a pretty freaking
Mm-hmm.
good rotation out there. And like you said, if they could get some offense, and they're kind of are in a tough division with Houston, who's kind of, they revamped their bullpen. You also have, Texas. The rotation is going to be a problem. I wonder how long they're going to be able to, bash like they did in the postseason last year without some of their starters. So I would assume Seattle's on the rise, but it's always hard for me to buy into teams like Seattle, who has the talent. Toronto, who I feel like are always pretenders. Besides Baltimore and the Central's a mess to me. That Central Division's a mess. So the Yankees, probably have one of the better rotations, even with the issues that are stated. Just want to shout out 60 people right now.
Yeah.
Are in here.
Shout out to the
Thanks
folks in the
everyone in
building.
here. Duran Rivera, let's go Mets. I thought we had a Yankee question. Lane Kerner had a Yankee question. How do you
There we go.
feel about playing in Houston this week?
Listen, it's the Houston Astros, right? The Houston Astros, they've been a thorn in the Yankees behind ever since 2017, 2016, whatever you want, 2015 when 2016, whenever they met for that wild card matchup. It's the Houston Astros. When it comes down to it, I look at it as another game, but of course, it's going to have a little extra electricity because it is the Astros. I can't wait for April 1st, April 5th for when they finally come home and we can have the actual opening day of the season in the Bronx. But I look forward to seeing what Nestor Cortez can give us. As he's going to be opening the season against the Houston Astros. I want to see what Carlos Rodon is going to do because, like you said, his last start was very shaky. He gave up, I think, 3 to 5 runs, if I'm not mistaken. On top of it, the catcher that he had catching him, Ben Rortback. I'm not sure why the Yankees had him go out there. If this is Carlos Rodon last start, you should have a catcher out there that's going to be on the roster for the season. Ben Rortback, bless that man. He's not going to be on the roster for the Yankees. He has no options left. The Yankees don't even know what to do with him at the moment. Granted, if the Yankees designate him for assignment, there's ain't no team out there is going to be picking up the phone to get Ben Rortback. So I thought it was a mistake. They should have had Austin Wells. Jose Trevino, I know they were sending him down to Mexico to play against that team in Mexico. So you should have had Austin Wells as a starter for that day because Austin Wells, he done caught Carlos Rodon 3 out of his 4 or 5 starts this spring. You should have still stood with with Austin Wells.
Before we continue, just make sure like the page, subscribe to both Subway to Shea, to Morning Brew Sports Network. Make sure you're subscribing. And another question for you, because we had talked about this initially, about adding to the rotation. You thought it's about adding Blake Snell. Obviously, in between that time, he got picked up by San Francisco Giants on a short-term deal. But Jeff Cohen makes a good point here. Hector, should the Yankees sign Montgomery?
When it comes to Montgomery, I would love the Yankees to rewrite their mistake, especially Brian Cashman admitting that he should have never traded Jordan Montgomery to begin with. But Jordan Montgomery is tricky because, like I said, the Texas Rangers, they need starting pitching. They desperately need starting pitching. They just won the World Series. I know they're dealing with their whole TV contract and not sure of Bally Sports, that whole fiasco of what happened. They don't know who's going to be covering or carrying their TV contract or their games this season. I get that. But if a team just won a World Series and one of their starting pitchers who was a big part of that World Series title, they're not even trying or they're not even showing an effort to re-sign him, that raises some red flags and alarms to me. And I'm not sure about you. Maybe Jordan Montgomery is asking a little bit too much. If I'm the Yankees, yeah, a 1-year, 2-year deal for Jordan Montgomery, absolutely. I'm not going over 3 years with Monty just because of the injury concerns. And are we going to get this version of Monty for the next 7 years, or would Jordan Montgomery go down as this generation's version of Jeff Suppan, who was phenomenal in the postseason, got his contract, but never lived up to expectations?
I'm just surprised at how, like, stern he is on his contract and what he wants with 3 days to go to opening day. Like this guy, like some of these players are, hesitant to take and sign these short-term deals. They'd rather sit it out. And it's not like the old days where, Scott Boras was king supreme and kind of running free agency through all these teams. I feel like it's backfiring on him now. And nowadays, like the teams, the owners are not falling for his stick anymore.
When you and I was growing up, Ant, because we're basically around the same age and everything like that. When we was in high school, if somebody asked us, name us a sports agent, the first name that's coming to your head is Scott Boras. That was the first name. Scott Boras in 2024, he doesn't have the same cachet as he once had in the mid 2000s. And what was Scott Boras' biggest mistake this offseason is the fact that Shohei Ohtani got a record contract, Yamamoto got a record contract, but none of them was represented by Scott Boras. So Scott Boras thought he could set the bar for his clients in the same range that Yamamoto and Shohei got their contract. And guess what? Nobody's giving Blake Snell 9 years, $290 million. Nobody's giving Jordan Montgomery 7 to 8 years. You were lucky to get Cody Bellinger and JD Martinez signed. When you look at the job that Scott Boras has done this offseason, it's a poor reflection on Scott Boras as an agent, and it may be a passing of the guard when it comes to who's the top dog in sports agency nowadays.
Let's head on over to Queens' rotation. And like you, our ace is out. Kodai Senga to start the season on the IL, right shoulder inflammation. I assume that he'll be back mid-May, end of May, early June-ish. We've got Jose Quintana, who will be the opening day starter. Luis Severino, who's looked great all spring. Tyler McGill, Sean Manaea also looked great today. Besides giving up this 2-run double, he looked really good all spring. Adrian Hauser's been okay, but that's the Mets rotation going into this year. And a lot of ifs, a lot of guys with something to prove because it's a contract year for 4 out of the 5 of them. And the only one that's here is the one that's on the injured list. We'll see how it goes. I've said this before. I don't know if I said it with you. At the start of the offseason, the one name that I was looking forward to possibly signing was Luis Severino. I that was one guy I was like, I want Luis Severino in this rotation. Now I wanted him to be a number, 4, number 5 guy. Obviously he got pushed all the way up to number 2, but he's got 2 stuff. Some may say that he's got 1 stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in Queens if they can get him right and fix the issues that he had been going through. And it'll be very interesting. It'll definitely be very interesting to see what Luis Severino can add to the table.
I told you this when we first linked up to talk about in this offseason. If Luis Severino is healthy, he's a candidate for comeback player of the year, right? That's how good Luis Severino's stuff is. When you come to a starting pitcher, when they start regressing, when they start losing their stuff, the first thing to go is velocity. Luis Severino has no issue when it comes to his velocity. He can still get it up there at 98, 99 to 100 miles per hour. The issue with Luis Severino is that he got injured back in 2017, 2018 against the Houston Astros, and he always rushed himself back. He never took the time to properly heal. He just kept getting injured and was never getting the proper rest. Hopefully now he is at a stage in his career where the injury bugs is in the past. If Luis Severino, like I said, if he's healthy, you guys have yourself a number 1. I know you got Kodai Senga, but I'm so confident that Luis Severino, if he could get things rocking in the National League, because the ballparks are a lot bigger, he is a fly ball pitcher and a strikeout pitcher. The home run numbers will come down off of Luis Severino, and you guys have yourself a solid pickup.
We have a question from Jeff, who, as we were talking about Scott Boras, he agrees with us. Should Alonso and Soto be worried of their free agency after this season? Those are 2 guys I would not. Like, they are elite, superstar level. Obviously, Soto is, up here. Pete Alonso's kind of in the middle of that point. I still think he's got a lot more that he can do as well. But, we're talking about Jordan Montgomery. All right. That, a 3 or 4. Blake Snell, although he won the Cy Young, we all know what Blake Snell is, right?
Yeah,
And who else did he have? Not Clay, that's the father, Cody Bellinger.
Cody Bellinger.
This is a guy that, just last year finally found, his stroke again. JD Martinez is another year older. So it's like these guys aren't the superstars, that Boris has that would be signed. I don't think that Alonso and Soto are going to have a problem at all getting whatever free agent contract they want.
No, I don't think they'll have a problem with getting whatever contract they want. But if you're Juan Soto and if you're Pete Alonso right now, seeing how Scott Boras operated this offseason, you don't have that much confidence in Scott Boras. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying both of them may change agents during the season, but if there's any rumors about them changing their representation, just know one thing. It's all because of what Scott Boras did this offseason, not getting at least one of his clients a $100 million contract. He didn't get that one person a $100 million contract. If you'd have told me that Blake Snell was going to sign for less than $100 million, I would have called you crazy. Same thing for Chapman, and same thing for Cody Bellinger. If you would have told me they would have signed for less than $100 million, I would have said, sell me whatever bridge that you have in Pennsylvania waiting with my name on it.
And you know what? I feel good heading into free agency with Pete Alonso. I'm pretty sure you feel good,
Yeah.
heading into free agency with Soto, with what you just mentioned and
Mm-hmm.
how things have been handled in free agency. So we'll see what happens going forward. And I just hope that, I definitely want Pete to return. It'd be nice to go after Soto. I know we made that joke on New York One about going after Soto, but the Mets have a lot to deal with, including rebuilding the rotation again. Because, like I said, 4 out of the 5 guys will be free agents. The president, the CEO
Hey,
is in the building. Jigaman Porto's in the
my
building.
guy.
Congratulations too on Jigaman Porter. I
Yeah.
watched his SNY New York Post hit with Brandon London.
Amazing.
Great job he did on that, and great to see him a part of that family as well.
Yeah.
And seeing everyone thrive is awesome. 79 people in the chat. Make sure you
Smack that like button.
that. Yeah, smack that like button. Subscribe to both Subway to Shea and Morning Brew Sports.
If I may real quick, my guy Anthony said there's close to 80 people in the building. If you guys can, smack that like button for your boys. And if you're watching us for the first time, hit the subscribe button. It's free. There's no charge. A little effort is needed to hit the subby button.
I'm gonna take that little clip and I'm gonna post that on every show now. Boop.
Repurpose it.
Repurpose for sure, man. So how you feeling about the Yankees lineup going into this year? Because there are injuries. I mean, DJ LeMahieu is going to start the season on IL. That's a tough pill to swallow. I don't know where Aaron Judge is at. I mean, I don't know how you feel about Aaron Judge right now. That foot issue from last year, I feel like that's going to be something chronic.
No, it's definitely going to be something chronic. I said it when the injury happened. He should have had the surgery back then instead of trying to come back. And it was a lost season last year. He should have just had the surgery and got ready for this season. But I think with the Yankees going out there and trading for Juan Soto, the Yankees front office for years, they fought and they wanted fans to respect the Yankees' decision to bat Aaron Judge in the number 2 spot. Because they said for years that the best hitter in their lineup should bat in the number 2 spot. So far in spring training, they put Juan Soto in that spot that Aaron Judge was once in. So I think that is signaling to the fan base that, hey, Aaron Judge is not going to be the same Aaron Judge that hit 62 home runs. He's a year older. He's dealing with that toe injury, so he may be off more than he is on when it comes to his playing time, and we may have to pivot and just build this team around Juan Soto. It's not about building a team around Aaron Judge anymore. No, it's about building a team around Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge is just going to complement Juan Soto. I hate to say it. I hate to be that fan to say it, but reality is reality when it comes to that toe injury.
Yeah. And he also for a while had the little rib injury as well, and that's something that has to be taken care of, properly, because Scherzer had that same injury, where he grabbed under here, and he was out for 4 to 8 weeks, and you can't afford to lose Aaron Judge with Rizzo coming back, looking good during spring. Stanton lost a lot of weight, ready to go here for spring, and then DJ LeMahieu being out. The Yankees, the lineup. I don't know if it concerns you more than the rotation does.
No, the rotation concerns me more than the lineup. You brought up DJ LeMahieu. His nickname was La Máquina, the machine. I don't know. He looks like more of a Texas Instrument calculator nowadays. He doesn't look like the machine that he once was. DJ LeMahieu, when the Yankees extended him a few years back, I said that was a mistake because we already know what happens to baseball players when they have hip surgery. We saw it with Alex Rodriguez, and now we're seeing it with DJ LeMahieu. Once your hips go and you're an older baseball player on the opposite bad side of 30, your career is going to start trickling down and start going away. DJ LeMahieu, he's a constant professional. He's an awesome leader in that clubhouse, but he just doesn't have it anymore. And I think the Yankees, when it comes to DJ LeMahieu, Giancarlo Stanton, by the time the middle of the season, they're going to have to make some tough decisions when it comes to either eating some contract and waiving some of these veteran players that just can't hack it anymore because they're too much of an injury risk.
The Mets lineup obviously is taking a little change with the addition of JD Martinez. Um, Carlos Mendoza said he would be batting cleanup once he is up with the roster in a couple of weeks. So it would be Nimmo. It would be my ideal lineup would be Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, JD Martinez, and then go to McNeil. Was it McNeil? McNeil, Alvarez, Starling Marte, Beatty, and then Harrison Bader. I think that's probably going to be the best lineup. I do have my concerns for Starling Marte and how healthy he is. He says he's 100% healthy. I don't know. I don't know if he truly is. And we saw last year that he never kind of recovered from his double groin surgery. So maybe putting him towards the bottom of the lineup to start is probably the better move.
Yeah, one, you're taking some pressure off of him as well. You know, he doesn't have to worry about being the spark plug at the top of the lineup. But I like the Mets lineup 1 through 9. I really like you guys outfield defensively. The Mets, if Harrison Bader is healthy, you guys potentially can have the best outfield in all of Major League Baseball when it comes to the defense. Harrison Bader is the best defensive center fielder that I ever seen with my eyes. But the issue with Harrison Bader is he cannot stay healthy. Health is a big key for Harrison Bader. The flip side of it, when he is healthy, he's a clutch performer. I think in 260 or 300 at bats last year, he had like 30 or 40 RBIs for the Yankees. So if you extrapolate that over 600 at bats, he's a potential 80 RBI, 90 RBI guy if he is healthy. I've said it for many times before. If the Yankees did not have Harrison Bader a couple of seasons ago in that postseason against the Cleveland Guardians, we would have lost in that first round. We went to 5 games against the Guardians, and that is with Harrison Bader hitting 330 with 5 home runs. No Harrison Bader, the Yankees potentially are swept or a gentleman sweep.
Yeah, Harrison Bader could be some sort of X factor here at that bottom of the order for the Mets. And you talked about, defense. Go
Yeah.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, my fault. I just want to, with the lineup, how long do you think it's going to take for JD Martinez to go on assignment in the minors and jump back up and be with the big league team? Is it going to take him a week, 2 weeks? What's your thoughts on JD?
They're saying but probably by, I think it was like April 8th, April 9th, whenever they go to Cincinnati, because that's what the series that was mentioned, which is, I think, either the first or the second series when they're away. JD would probably come up here. And, it's good that JD's going down there to get himself ready, because you don't want him to come up all rusty. But it's good also, I think, for Mark Vientos, who got sent down as well. He's not coming up with the team. And JD talked during his press conference about himself coming up in the league and how his career kind of mirrors Mark Vientos. And, Vientos has had a tough time around 24, 20, 25. Same thing happened with JD Martinez. And, maybe he could help him out and get him to a place where, he feels more comfortable, where he can bash it down in AAA. And at some point, we'll probably see Mark Vientos because JD Martinez only played in 113 games last season. Great 113 games, but always have to keep that in mind. Always got to keep the back injury, just like you mentioned, the hip, that back injury too. That's something that can linger on as well. And the Mets have like prioritized defense, and they've done that as well with the bench with Joey Wendell. Tyrone Taylor is probably one of the better, backup outfielders, out there. Had a great spring. Excited to see what he can do. And then they bring in Zach Short, who played stellar defense and plays stellar defense to begin with. So they're prioritizing run prevention and defense, at least to start the season.
Yeah. And when you look at the JD Martinez and the injury concerns, right? Always you got to put that in the back of your head. My only hope for the New York Mets and for the Met fans, JD Martinez is a guy that you guys been wanting for the past several years. You guys been saying this is the guy that the front office should go out there to sign him, go get him, go get him. I just hope you guys didn't wait too long to get JD Martinez, and this version of JD Martinez is the JD. It's not the version of JD Martinez we've seen over the last couple of years. Again, I'm not wishing any bad mojo on anybody, but I just hope that you guys didn't wait too long to get JD, and he just won't live up to the expectations. Because if you look at the track record for the New York Mets over the past 20 years, guys have a track record of waiting a little bit too long to get the guy that you guys finally want. And when you get him, he just never lives up to the expectations. First person that comes to my head is Michael Kadire. That was a guy that the Mets coveted for some years before they finally got him, and he just never lived up to the expectations. I'm sorry. I saw the adjutant just come up for your heart. I apologize.
That list is so long, and he is probably the captain of that list of guys that we've waited. No, yeah, it's an obvious concern. Absolutely. What is he, 37 now? JD Martinez,
30,
I think.
36. I think he's turning 37 during the season, towards the end of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a concern. I always like to have cautious optimism when it comes with this team. So, it's going to be a concern, especially when he is going to get a lot more at bats. He's batting fourth in the lineup, so he's going to get more at bats than a lot of the other guys will. And hopefully he can hang in there, and hopefully the back, hangs there enough. Or, obviously, if he does get himself injured, we'll probably see Mark Vientos. I assume at some point he will come up here.
I hope some of JD Martinez's tendencies rubs off on the young kids, like a Brett Beatty, like a Vientos, because when it comes to JD Martinez, he is a stickler for grabbing the iPad and breaking down his last at bat to see what he did wrong and trying to course correct it in his next at bat. So hopefully, when it comes to JD Martinez, his preparation, the way he carries himself in the clubhouse, the way he prepares for a game, hopefully those type of tendency rubs off on the young players, because let's be honest, you need some of those veterans that have been in the league for so many years and who could just share some of their wisdoms with the young kids. And JD Martinez is the perfect veteran to do it. Not only is he up there in age, but he's up there in age and he's still cracking it with some of the best young kids nowadays.
Jeff Cohen mentions more on that list. Carlos Baerga, Robbie Alomar leading that bust list. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Duran Rivera, Jason Bay. Yeah,
Oh
there's a
God,
whole
I,
list.
I didn't mean to bring up the Yankees. We have a list as well. We have Jacoby Ellsbury. We got a list. Trust me. Kevin Youkilis, Trevor Hoffman, Matt Holliday, not Trevor Hoffman. Travis Hafner. You remember Travis
Oh
Hafner from the
yeah,
Guardians? Yeah, we have a list also.
everyone has a roster full that they can put together of these busts that just never worked out.
Do Do you know I would love to do one day, right? I would love for you and I to sit down and we start just creating our own fantasy roster of the best players that played on both the Mets and the Yankees. I would love for that one day. We could just do that, sit down and just break things out, and let's see who has the better lineup after we do it.
Heck yeah, man. I'm totally down for that. You could even do a bus list. How about that?
There
You
you
could do
go.
both. Could throw in both teams in there. Thinking into it now, what has been the standouts so far this spring for Yankee? Maybe like standout performances, standout moments for this roster. That's something that you're looking forward to heading into the season.
Two standout players for me. One, I talked about it when we was on New York One with Rocco. Austin Wells, a phenomenal spring trading. I think he hit close to 350 if I'm not mistaken, but he hit well over 300. His pitch framing, the way that the starting rotation and the veterans and the older statesmen for the New York Yankees pitching staff, the way that they talk about this young kid, you would think this young kid is a seasoned veteran. So I'm super excited to see Austin Wells. I went to one of my first spring training games ever a couple of seasons ago. I went to go catch the Tampa Tarpons. There's two young kids that I watched, Jason Dominguez, who I got a foul ball from, and Austin Wells. It was his first at bat for the Tampa Bay Tarpons. He hit the ball and it left George M. Steinbrenner field. Austin Wells has some sneaky power to go alongside his baseball IQ. And my second player is Oswaldo Cabrera, just because he is a Swiss Army man. He started the spring. He couldn't buy himself a hit. He was hitting well below 100 when it comes to his batting average. Over the past week and a half, he's been able to turn it around. His driving the ball, he had a couple of home runs. So Oswaldo Cabrera, who's going to be the starting third baseman in the absence of DJ LeMahieu and Austin Wells, those are my biggest takeaway for the Yankees. And obviously, Will Warren, Clayton Beater, and some of the other young kids who won spots as the fifth starter or in that bullpen.
Yeah, for me, we mentioned it before. Tyrone Taylor, obviously, Luis Severino has looked great all spring, but man, I got to give it up to the entire bullpen. They have looked really good, and the depth looks great so far. We got to see Edwin Diaz come back. Now I know it's against three, maybe a couple prospect or whatever, but I gotta say, like, I got emotional watching him come to the mound and strike out the side. Like, it was an event. Spring training, minus whatever. I thought that was an awesome moment just to know that he's okay and that he is ready for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't let anybody try to downplay that or take that joy away from you, right, Ant? Because if Edwin Diaz would have went out there and instead of striking out the side, if he would have gave up back to back to back home runs for the first three batters he faced, Met fans would have been losing their mind and be like, the season is over because Edwin Diaz is not the same. The fact that Sugar came out there, Edwin Diaz struck out the side, looked phenomenal. You guys have Edwin Diaz, if healthy, is the best closer in Major League Baseball. I've said that a couple of years ago when Timmy Trumpets first made his debut. If he is healthy, you guys have the best closer in Major League Baseball.
We've had some really good closers. Billy Wagner, Juris Familia had a couple of seasons where he was really
Yeah,
good. We
Billy
had
Wagner
K-Rod.
should be a Hall of Famer, by the way. Also, just throwing it out there.
Who should?
Billy Wagner.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We had K-Rod for
Mm-hmm.
a short amount of time. Armando Benitez, as shaky as he was, had some good seasons. John Franco, the
JJ
list.
Putz.
Oh yeah, that's a part of that bus list. You can add JJ Puts to that bus list. But there's never been a season that I can remember where a closer that I've watched for my team has been as dominant as Edwin Diaz was in 2022.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times he struck out the side in the ninth in 2022, but it was almost automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Almost automatic. And I'm not comparing him to him, but I'm sure that you have had that feeling where you knew the game was over with possibly the greatest,
Yeah.
not possibly, the greatest closer of all time in Mariano Rivera.
I was gonna bring up Mo, right? And I'm glad you brought up Mo. Mariano Rivera is gonna go down. He is the best closer of all time, right? But when it comes to his stuff, Mariano Rivera was a one-pitch pitcher. He had that cutter that will cut into lefties and go away to righties at 97, 98 miles per hour. Edwin Diaz's atomic fastball. I love Mariano to death. I would have been jumping for joy if Mariano could get it up there 101, 102, or 103. I'm just be honest with you. Edwin Diaz is special. If he's healthy and that command is there, he is phenomenal. He is untouchable. I can't wait to see what happens when he gets into the postseason setting. Because I've been talking about this for the longest. Our closer, Clay Holmes with the Yankees, I'm not sold on him because he's not a strikeout pitcher. He is a ground ball pitcher. And if you're a closer, you need to be a guy who could just throw it past some guys and strike guys out. If you're in the postseason, those ground balls, more often than not in the postseason, Anthony, they find a hole or they hit a rock and they go over the third baseman head. If you're in the postseason, you need a closer who could strike guys out 1, 2, 3, not a guy that you're just relying for the ground ball or a ground ball just to get an easy out.
Yeah, and I've seen it in the postseason with John Franco, with Armando Benitez not being able to put away batters. Billy Wagner, even as great as Billy Wagner was, he had a hard time in the postseason. Trevor Hoffman, who people consider to be one of the, I don't know, I think Trevor Hoffman is overrated personally.
I'm
Um,
right there with you, bro. Trevor Hoffman, and this is no shade to Trevor Hoffman. He suffered from being on a bad team and being able to get garbage statistics on a bad team. Just like Kevin Love in Minnesota. I love Kevin Love to death, but he was putting up amazing stats. It's easy to get those amount of rebounds per game when your team is losing 10, 15 by 20 points. And the fourth quarter, nobody's giving maximum effort in that fourth quarter. And it's no shade to Kevin Love, no shade to any of those guys, because I can never come close to the athleticism that they have.
so now that we've gone through talking about, the positives of spring, the standout of springs, what is worrying you heading into this opening day?
It's what's worrying me is the health of our entire team. We started it with Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole for his entire career has been able to avoid the Tommy John surgery, and that goes to his mechanics being the best mechanics in all of Major League Baseball. Hopefully, this injury is not something that gets exacerbated now in his 30s, and he starts to decline and it's not the same. DJ LeMahieu, the Yankees never addressed their third base situation this offseason. I wanted them to address that. I wanted the Yankees to try to get off of DJ LeMahieu in his contract. They didn't, and now he's starting the season on the IL, and we got our utility guy as our starting third baseman. So the health of our lineup, of our entire roster, is more concerning to me more than anything else.
We got 95 people in the room here. Make sure you're hitting that like, smacking the subscribe, all of it. Do it all for both of our shows. I mean, it's important. This collaboration got started at the beginning of the spring. We've worked together a couple times, and it's been fun, man.
I just want to take a second real quick. Maybe you could clip this and put this out on social. I want to take a second to thank our good friend Dexter Henry. I texted him once I found out that you and I was both going to be on New York One. Shout out to Dexter Henry, because me and Ant would have never linked up or started collaborating if it wasn't for Dexter. And I was joking with Dexter. Me and Ant, we are Dexter from the Dexter Henry content creator tree, just like Popovich and the NBA has his different coaches and stuff. So shout out to our guy Dexter Henry.
Yeah. Nothing but love for Dexter. He has been, that kind of like a really great mentor, to helping, both of us, navigate a media world that's really hard to crack.
Yeah.
And to help us, pave our way. Can't thank him enough for that.
Yeah, definitely. And he's very authentic, very it's nothing is he doesn't fake the funk. That's an easy way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going back to the worries, for me, it's just third base. I am not confident at this moment in time in Brett Beatty, and what he could do. He's had an okay spring. It's been okay, but man, is he on notice? I think especially after what has happened to Mark Vientos. And, I say that because came out today, Pat Ragazzo, Sports Illustrated Fan Nation, came out today that the Mets had offered a contract to Justin Turner at the winter meetings. And I feel like if the shoe was on the other side, we would probably be talking about Brett Beatty being sent down and Mark Vientos staying with the club here. So I think Mark Vientos is kind of like that hard luck loser, who,
Yeah.
kind of gets thrown to the wayside at the moment. But we'll see. I'm sure that Mark Vientos is going to get a lot of time at third. So, Brett Beatty may have gotten third base now, but it's definitely not his to hold if he doesn't come through.
Yeah, it has to be a concerning because Brett Beatty was top prospect for the Mets in their system. He came up last year. Everybody thought he was going to be a hitting machine. Never lived up to the expectations, but it's just a lot of pressure to put onto a young kid. That's all I'm going to say. I wish the Mets they would have addressed that third base situation. There was rumblings about Gio Urshela, former Yankee, best
Yeah.
friends with Francisco Lindor. I thought that would have been the perfect pickup for you guys. I know
He
it's another
signed a good contract too.
he did sign a good contract, and there's talks about the Detroit Tigers about to waive him. So if he gets waived, I want the Yankees to pick him up right now. That's what I'm saying. But I thought he would have been the perfect pickup for you guys. Not only is he a solid defender, he's a solid bat also, but he's a great locker room and clubhouse guy. And that is missed in Major League Baseball, having guys that are great in the locker room. We heard last year Salicata, he came out with the whole Pete Alonso is toxic in the club. I don't know how true those rumors are from the outside looking in, but if those have any type of validity to it, then you should have addressed this off, or you should have went after this off season guys specifically who have great characters and a great clubhouse presence. If Pete Alonso is a toxic in that clubhouse, granted, I don't know how true that is. I don't know how true those rumors are. But when you look at Salicata, he's been in this industry for a minute. He has some connections. So whenever there's smoke, there's a little bit of fire.
Yeah, I I I, I don't know if it's a thing for clicks with Sal, because Sal can be very um over the top. We'll put it. And I've listened to the show with I've seen the show with him and Tierney, and I've seen some of their clips and some of the stuff that they come up with, and that's always a concern to me. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of media who's been in the clubhouse and said that Pete is not a clubhouse issue. So we will never fully know, probably until he signs as a free agent next year. But I don't think he is. I mean, I don't know. It's tough.
He doesn't seem like he is,
No.
right? It's like the fan base, they brought into the fact that Pete Alonso may go down as the best offensive player that the Mets ever produced or came out of the Mets system. So I don't see how the whole clubhouse cancer thing, again, when it comes to Solid Clotta, is it clicks? Is it just trying to put a hot take out there just to build some traction? I'm not sure. But if there is any validity to whatever Salicata said or whatever sources he had, the New York Mets, they should have addressed that this offseason by getting great character guys for the clubhouse. And you got one in JD Martinez who is good when it comes to teaching other young kids the value of like preparing for a game and like picking up the iPad. You could use analytics. I know analytics, it gets thrown around as the buzzwords, but I always look at analytics as just extra numbers. You just have to have the right people in place to interpretate that data. That's how I look at that.
Yeah, everything that has been said about JD Martinez, you see him. He's got that leadership capability. You saw him with Mark Vientos, with his hand around his shoulder, just saying everything's going to be all right. They've worked together too in the offseason, so that's a big positive to take away from that. But even from what Lindor said to what Pete Alonso has said about him and how he prepares for the game of baseball and how he prepares to hit, that's going to feed off on the rest of the team. And, hopefully this lineup has now been lengthened, because all we talked about for, an entire off season is how we needed someone to protect Pete in the lineup. And now we finally have it. So now we finally need to see some results.
Yeah, and when you look at JD Martinez, this is the last thing I'm gonna say about JD. The person who saved JD Martinez's career or who helped elevate JD Martinez's career was David Ortiz. right? David Ortiz, one of his last few seasons, he was teammates with JD Martinez, and that's when JD Martinez had a full breakout season and was a top contender for that MVP candidate award in the American League. David Ortiz is another guy that he came from another organization, got with the hitting coach in Boston, and that guy is his best friend to this day. And he helped him make his career to what it is right now. So hopefully anything that he learned from David Ortiz, he could translate, he could give it to Francisco Alvarez, and then Francisco Alvarez could then use that to become the star player that you Met fans hope that he can be.
Well, Hector, we got to a little over 100 in here.
Guy.
So we
I mean,
must be doing something right.
you know what that means, Ant? That just means we got to do this again, brother. That's all. That's what that means.
We we got a whole schedule lined up for you this season of New York baseball talk. Mets, Yankees. We got the Subway Series, both of them coming up. So we'll be talking about that. Obviously, we'll definitely be working together on the Morning Brew Sports Network. I'll be on the Mets Evening Brew. You have the Morning Brew, and then you
Yeah.
also have a couple other things coming up as well.
Yeah, we do the Knicks Morning Brew, the Yankees Morning Brew as well. I'm gonna be doing some interviews on the street. Shout out to the people over there at Woodbridge and Woodbridge Brewing Company over there in New Jersey. A phenomenal establishment. Mihar, the owner's phenomenal guy. He puts together a lot of great autograph signings from former players, current players. Coming up in the month of April, they got Harrison Bader and Edwin Diaz is going to be in the building. I think Doc Gooden is coming as well. They had Darryl Strawberry a couple of weeks ago at Woodbridge. So if you guys are in the tri-state area, if you guys can make your way down to Woodbridge, New Jersey, to the Woodbridge Brewing Company, look them up on Instagram, check out the different events that they have coming up, and make sure you secure a ticket to get an autograph signing. And maybe you see me and my guy Anthony Rivera in the building having a few brewskis.
I mean, we have to, right? Now that we're part of the now that I'm part of the Evening Brew. I was thinking, I was like, oh, it's coffee, but like if you're in the Evening Brew, we're talking about brewskis, we're talking about
Yeah,
beers.
yeah, yeah. But I have this one rule, right? Yeah, I know my show is in the morning, but even if it's in the morning, it's happy hour anywhere, my guy. So that gives me an excuse to drink if I want to.
Hector, is there anything else? Actually, let's do one more thing. I actually want to
Okay.
do one more thing. Your prediction for
Mhm.
how many wins this team for the Yankees that they get this season?
The Yankees last year, we got to 82 wins without Juan Soto and with Aaron Judge missing 2 months of the season. So at the bare minimum, if you have a healthy Aaron Judge, a healthy Juan Soto, I could see this team at bare minimum 92 wins, 94 wins. If the Texas Rangers were able to win the World Series as a wild card team with 90 wins, I don't see why the Yankees can't either. And bold prediction for the Mets. The Mets are going to get into the postseason as one of those 3 wild card team spots. I'm throwing it out there right now.
Yeah, I think that for the Yankees, I think that considering that the American League that they're in right now, that obviously Boston is not a team player anymore right now. Toronto, I think that the Yankees have their number. Tampa's always that team, right? Like that's the team that always, gives them fits. You look at the Central, there's not much going on there. You got Oakland and Anaheim not doing much out in the West. I think the Yankees are definitely going to be back in the playoff hunt for sure,
Yeah.
and definitely get a playoff spot.
Yeah. I see one person in the chat, right? They bringing up the worst trade for Nolan Ryan. Yankee, for those of you guys out there, whether you're a Yankee fan or whether you're a Met fan, the Yankees, we have some bad trades in our history as well. In the 80s, just let this stick in your head. When the Yankees had Don Mattingly as a young and up and coming phenom in Major League Baseball, the New York Yankees traded away Willie McGee, who became a Hall of Famer with the St. Louis Cardinals, and Fred McGriff, the crime dog.
Oof.
So just yes, you lost Nolan Ryan, but the Yankees, we lost 2 guys who are future Hall of Famers in Willie McGee and Fred McGriff, the crime dog. Guarantee you, if we had both those players in the 80s, Don Mattingly would have went to at least one postseason.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the downfall. And it hasn't been like they haven't gone to thankfully, though, they needed that. They actually needed that to get to where they were now, if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you would want to see Don Mattingly get that opportunity. He did get
Hmm.
one opportunity in 95, but that was like this last season. But if they didn't go through what they did from,
Yeah.
what was it? Was it 85 on, 86
Hmm.
on?
Yep.
If they
Yep.
didn't go through that, like, would we be sitting here talking about the dynasty of the 90s, the core four teams, and how that whole, era of baseball, which I had to grow up through
Hmm.
and watch all that success. I don't
Listen,
know if we'd be talking about that this
the
now.
only reason the dynasty team happened in the late 90s is because George Steinbrenner was suspended from Major League Baseball and he had to sit out for 3 years. So that allowed the Yankees brain trust to get to work and build up that farm system. George Steinbrenner wanted to trade Andy Pettitte, Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera, and Derek Jeter. They had to lie to him. The GM literally came out and said, I had to lie to George Steinbrenner and say nobody wanted to trade for those guys in order for us to keep him. So as great as the boss was and his tenure in his lifetime, he had some bozo moves that was out there.
I think someone put it out in Twitter because I was listening to Michael K show, and it was like, would you rather? Like, would you rather get rid of one of the core four? Would you rather fix something in history, in Yankee history, like rewrite one moment in Yankee history, or would you rather have George Steinbrenner still alive?
Oh, wow. Listen, I would love to see George still here to this day, but was he be 120 years old, 115 years old? So that can't happen. If I could rewrite one thing in Yankees history, is the 2006 to 2007 offseason when the Florida Marlins was having their fire sale. Brian Cashman did not want to trade Jabba Chamberlain, Phil Hughes, or Ian Kennedy for Miguel Cabrera. I wish I could go back then and convince Brian Cashman to make that trade for Miguel Cabrera. Because if we make that trade for Miguel Cabrera, he's our first baseman of the future. We don't sign Mark Teixeira. When we signed Mark Teixeira, the draft pick we gave up to the Angels, it turned out to be Mike Trout. So there's a timeline, there's a universe out there that the Yankees traded for Miguel Cabrera. We never signed Mark Teixeira, and we had Mike Trout and Miguel Cabrera in their prime with the Yankees. I wish I lived in that universe, but I
I'm
don't.
surprised you picked that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I think of fixing a moment in time, I always go to 2004.
Oh, that needed to happen. I think that needed to happen because there was a lot of Yankee fans. And granted, I was a 10th grade in high school when that happened. My best friend at the time, Andrew, was a diehard Met fan, and he rubbed it in my face when the Red Sox came back to beat the Yankees. But I think 2004 needed to happen. It gave the Yankees a bit of humble pie that they needed to slice and eat. Probably a horrible nightmare. Thank you for having me relive it, Anthony. But I will really want Miguel Cabrera because I have a soft spot in my heart for Miguel Cabrera. Growing up, he was my favorite player of all time.
True story. I was a freshman in college at that time, and there was this one kid in one of my classes, die-hard Yankee fan. And throughout that series, he was talking a lot of, he was talking a lot of crap. And I said, you know what happens if, like, the Red Sox come back? I know it's never been done before, but like, what would happen? And he's still talking. I'll tell you this: once that comeback came, I didn't see that kid for the rest of the class. I don't know if he transferred out or what, but I didn't see him. I wasn't gonna rip on him or nothing like that. I wouldn't do that. But like, man, he vanished off into thin air, man.
Yeah,
Vanishment.
yeah,
All right.
that was bad times. That was bad times.
I didn't even do Mets predictions. So I have the Mets.
Go ahead.
I'd originally had them um before JD Martinez. I had them around, I want to say, 82 to 83 wins.
Mm-hmm.
I think with JD Martinez, if you add a couple more wins to that, I would go between 85 and 87. If they can do that. And like you said, that puts you in the playoff hunt. So
Yeah,
I'll take that in a heartbeat.
yeah. If you guys can get to 82 to 88 wins, that puts you in line to one of those wild card team spots. Because last year the three wild card teams, that's what they won, about 82 to 88 games. So you'll be in that range this year if you're able to get it.
Hector, man, this is always a fun time
It is.
for me. This is always a blast. every time we get to hang out, whether it's virtual or like last time in person. That was a fun Saturday at New York One,
Yeah,
and I really appreciate the bond and the friendship that we've got going on
same.
here. So let everyone know because we got 108 people in here right now. So hit the subscribe,
Mm-hmm.
smack the like button, let everyone know where they can follow you
Yes,
because
you
that's
guys can.
important.
You guys can follow me on Twitter, Yankees Morning Brew, Yanks Morning Brew on Twitter, on YouTube, Morning Brew Sports. I host the Yankees Morning Brew Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning at 11 a.m. During the season, Monday through Friday, I'll be doing a Yankees pregame report. So that's going to go on from like 5 to 6 o'clock. And then late night on the X Spaces or Twitter, I'm not sure what the kids call it nowadays, I'll be doing a Yankees postgame show on Twitter, on X. One thing I got to say, shout out to the entire Yankees community on Twitter and on X. I've met some amazing people over the past few weeks, and they are just great content creators. They're great hosts as well. They're great fans, and they're just great people to have conversations with. So shout out to all my people that are in the Yankees Twitter space. They're amazing people. If you're a Met fan, you could come on over. We don't bite. We don't bite no heads off. Join the X Spaces and just get ready for a good time and a good conversation.
Yeah, I'll definitely be showing up to the spaces.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great community builder. I have one space coming up on Wednesday. So let me quickly do a schedule. Tomorrow, Subway to Shea podcast, episode 136 with Lori Rubinson is going to come out. A great conversation that I had with her before we got on to do this live stream. It's a busy
Shout
day,
out to
man. We hustling
yeah.
out today.
I'm a big fan of Lori Rubinson. Shout out to her. I love listening to her on WFAN.
Yeah, she was awesome. She so knowledgeable of the
Mhm.
entire game and just like sports in general. She is great to interact with.
Yeah.
I think she interacted with me first and I was just surprised. And
Hmm.
she read one of my tweets and retweeted it and quote tweeted it. And she's just a fun person. If you're not following Lori Rubinson, I think it's at L Rubinson.
Hmm.
You should be because
Yeah.
she's definitely a great time. I met her at the Queens Baseball Convention
That's
in
awesome.
December, and she was very nice. So we got that coming tomorrow. Wednesday, I'm gonna start doing a Mets monthly space. So we're gonna do one every month. There's just so many Mets spaces out there, and
Hmm.
sometimes I just like to go in and listen.
Yeah.
But this one I will be in charge of, and it'll be kind of a season preview. Wednesday night, I will be doing a series preview for the Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers, and my good friends at Till Mets Do Us Part. Uh, Matt Ibby Ibanez and John Sepernaro will be joining me for that show. So make sure you tune in. That's going to be live here on YouTube. So
Okay.
make sure you tune in and catch me on Thursdays for the Mets Evening Brew. We'll iron that time out, but
Hmm.
every Thursday at some point, it'll be starting up.
Yes, it will be with our favorite Theo, Mr. Alvin Centron from WFAN, my guy Eddie Presti, who hosts a lot of Knicks spaces on X, and of course, my guy Anthony Rivera. Again, Ant, I love linking up with you. I love doing some work with you. I can't wait for this entire season. I know we're gonna have a lot of great content coming for you people down there. And like I always say, support is free, right? That's the one thing I say. Support is free. Whether you're a content creator, whether you're a fan, just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. There's enough views, there's enough likes, there's enough subscribes for all of us to survive and for all of us to eat out there.
Absolutely. That's the best way to put it and end the show. I'm going to just hit some people up in the chat. Just thanks to everybody who joined
Yeah.
in there. Duran Williams, great stuff, man. Thank you for being here. Maureen, awesome to have you in here. We got Patty in here. Jeff Cohen is in here as well. Appreciate everyone. I think, who was the other one that was in here?
Somebody in the comment section was like,
Lane
see,
Kerner.
they were like, see, Yankee fans and Met fans can get along. Absolutely. Anthony Rivera is my guy.
Where is that? I gotta post that one. Where is that? That
Yeah.
has to be.
It was
There we go, Jeff.
yeah, there it is.
There we go, Jeff. Absolutely, man. Yeah, definitely, most definitely. And that's how we kind of just became friends talking over
Mhm.
this. If you take this stuff so seriously in baseball, man, I think you need like a new hobby or something or
For
some
real.
fresh air, man. Like it's not that serious. There is the rivalry. Obviously, there'll be jokes and stuff like that, and it's a part of the game. But like
Yeah.
to get too serious about the game of baseball, I think it's a little crazy.
the last thing I want to share, and this is the last thing I promise. I was with my friend Yanni, who is a diehard Met fan. We went out to the Poconos to go paintballing. We go to the supermarket. You know, the Pocono area is not that far from like Philadelphia and stuff. So we're out there and we're in the supermarket. My friend Yanni's wearing his Met fan. I kid you not, Ant. Some grown ass man, a Philly fan, ran up to us just to show us his tattoo. You know what his tattoo was? Its tattoo was the Philly fanatic choking out Mr. Met. If that's your level of fandom, my guy, I'm gonna need you to go out the house, get some sun on your skin, and take a deep breath of the oxygen that's out there.
Yeah, some fans just they're fanatics. I mean, like, right? Like it's another level. It's
It
just
was an
another
awesome
level.
looking tattoo when it comes to the ink. It was a funny, awesome looking tattoo, but you would never, and I'm telling you this right now, if you ever see me or if I ever say I want to get a Yankee tattoo, smack me upside my head, please. I give you the permission to hit me.
Yeah, I don't know if I could like as much as I love the Mets, I don't know if I could get a Met tattoo. I don't know if I could do it. And some people put like at the beginning of the season they'll put world champions on it. Like, what are we doing?
What do we? Yeah, come on.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. Jeff, this episode will not be audio. It's just YouTube only, but the you'll be able to catch my episode with Lori Rubinson. That will be audio version. Gotta try to expand everywhere we
Yeah,
can.
yeah. Gotta get this to whatever platform you can, my guy.
Absolutely. Hector, always a pleasure.
Sir.
Everyone in the chat, thank you. 110 watching. Appreciate y'all. For Anthony Rivera, for Hector Beauchamp, let's go Mets. You got,
Let's go, Yankees.
there we go.